intelligent understanding of the gospel message and living it at the same time. And yes, many commentators have put that as the seventh-day Sabbath, at the center of the Ten Commandments. But the seventh-day Sabbath, I must tell you, is only a sign of what the actual seal is. You understand? Right. If you can bear that in mind, I'll accept both, but I want you to have the wider understanding. So only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads are being tormented. Now let's turn to the successor of Muhammad. He died in the year 632 AD. In the arms of his youngest wife, her name was Aisha, and his father-in-law succeeded him. His name Abu Bakr. And he gave very specific instructions. In fact, they're on the record. He said to his soldiers, you will find another sort of people that belong to the synagogue of Satan. He says, who have shaven crowns. These are Roman Catholic monks. He didn't like it. And this is what he instructed. By the way, this statement, you might see the reference right here. It's in that old-time historic classic, The Decline and the Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. Very accurate historian. And so, this is what he said to them. Note this. Be sure to cleave their skull. Be nice to talk first, wouldn't it? Now, he said, be sure to cleave their skull, give them no quarter, give them no rest, till they either turn Mohammedan, or Mohammedan as you could say, or Muslim, or pay tribute. That is his instruction. By the way, the same man forbade, and that's also in the Quran, to damage all the green things, not to destroy willingly and wantingly. And that fits well with the whole of the instruction that John spells out that was given to the locust, which by now we must realize is the rise of Islam. It certainly fits well with history. And so, they were not given authority, note this, to kill them. This means the 1/3 of the Roman Empire, but to torment them for what? 5 months. Whenever we are in the prophetic books, like Daniel and Revelation, which are apocalyptic, these are long-term prophecies, you are most welcome, and actually you are compelled to utilize the year-day principle. And that applies here too. You work always with lunar months of 30 days. 5 times 30 is 150 days. But we apply the year-day principle, so we have 150 years. This organization, called into being with the instructions specified in the Bible, is now tormenting the 1/3 of Rome, which now we know, of course, is Byzantium or Eastern Rome. And so, that torment was like the torment of a scorpion. Now you know where the scorpion's coming. And when it strikes a man, I told you, it could make you feel terribly unwell. And that is precisely what happened. It even says, in those days men shall see death. And it says, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. This is very severe. And the history confirmed that. In fact, if you go to the great reformer, Martin Luther, there in the 16th century, and if you go to a man like Heinrich Bullinger, who was a well-known Swiss reformer, they both recognized the 5th trumpet description to be Islam. And many others picked that up. Wouldn't matter what church you came from, you will find that that was the understanding already then. So we're not telling anything really new. And so, the shape of the locust, he continues his vision. The shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. Now that's interesting, because the Muslims, collectively called the Saracens, were fighters that fought from horseback, and they were very good at it. Have a look at the inscription. Sometimes the detail is almost frightening. The shape of locusts was like horses prepared for battle. Note this. On their heads were gowns of something like gold. Well, they used to wear this turban, you see, often gold colored. And their faces were like the face of men, and of course these were men, these were very ferocious in appearance. And they had hair like women's hair because they had long hair. And perhaps the flowing end of their turbans. What John sees in vision, he is trying to describe, and he sees a warlike people, these locusts, with the sting of scorpions, are a warring people and a conquering people, teeth like lions, and they had breastplates like the breastplates of iron, and they did. And so we see here another statement which I find very remarkable. I used to ponder upon this little statement, and then one day I found out why it's there. They had tails like scorpions, note this, and their sting were in their tails. You know what the Saracens used to do? When they would approach the defense lines of the Byzantine armies, who would hide behind their shield in full armor, their lances sticking out, ready for the cavalry of the opposition to hit them. They would come at full speed right to the lines of the Byzantine army. They would stop and then turn around. And all the soldiers from the Byzantine army used to say, "What's that?" That same moment they had their bows and they fired the arrows. And they used to catch them out time and time and time and time again. He sees it in vision. Quite remarkable. That's how they used to fight. It was their favorite way of approaching them. Their power was to hurt men for 5 months, 150 days. Apply the year-day principle, 150 years. I want you to remember that. There's a lot to learn. And they had as king over them. Now, how do you explain this? They had as king over them who? The angel of the bottomless pit. Remember who he was? Was a fallen angel, wasn't it? Yes, it was. They had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon. Now, Abaddon is a personification which says destruction. That's what it means. And to make sure everybody gets it, he also, for his Greek audience, says he has the name Apollyon, which means destroyer. It's a destroyer. It's a destroying entity. That's what he says. Who else could it be? Who else could it be? Now, let's go back to the origin of Islam. We talked about that last week. The year 610 AD. Muhammad, in contemplation, seated on Mount High, gets a visitor. He records the appearance of an angel. Do you remember the name of the angel? Gabriel. Gabriel is the one who enlightened Daniel, particularly about the Messiah, how he was to be crucified and suffering, to be cut off. He was the one who announced the birth of the Messiah, the one who spoke to the father of John the Baptist about the Messiah who was come to take away the sin of the world, to save men from their sin. This reportedly is supposed to be the same angel that now 600 years after Christ, 610 years later, appears to the man Muhammad as he dwells there in contemplation in one of the caves on the mountain of Mount Hira near Mecca. The question is this: did Muhammad make up the whole story? I don't believe that. I believe on the strength of the prediction of the Bible of the rise of Islam, I believe the description as we just dealt with, I believe that God foreknew that this man Muhammad would be deceived.